How's it going, people? It's Hugo Strange here in the incredibly messy room. I'm in between things, just moving some things around. Anyway, let's talk about the elephant in the room. A lot of people have been making videos about this. A lot of people wanted to know what I think about this. And I think it's about time I talk to it now that, you know, everything's kind of coming into light about what's going to be happening with the property and all that. So, I'm of two minds about this. Let me preamble this by saying that I'm a huge fan of the Star Wars mythos and mythology and all that. One second, let me show you something here. These are Star Wars audiobooks, Extended Universe audiobooks. Check them out there. So, yeah, very good too, by the way. Very good books. So, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. Like I imagine many of you are. So, you know, if anything were to get me on a geek moment, or if anything warranted a video, this was definitely it. Now, like I said earlier, I'm of two minds about this. My initial reaction, I'm going to admit, was confusion. As much as I saw the images with the Luke and no, you know, as much as I saw those, that wasn't my accurate feelings. My initial feelings was confusion as to, you know, why Disney, why now, and what's gonna be, what's you know, what. It kind of came out of nowhere, you know, it wasn't like this was leading up to anything. So that was my initial reaction. After a while, I kind of got into this mindset where, okay, Disney's a big entity. Look what they did with Marvel. Okay, I can see why George Lucas, and he had the video of him explaining why he did what he did, and okay, so I can get that. So that is my first mind about it. That's just the factual of what goes into that. Now, getting into my personal feelings about it, I am cautiously optimistic, and I want to say cautiously optimistic for several reasons that have nothing to do with Disney, but everything to do with the Star Wars mythology as it's established now. Because as you see, the prequels pretty much ruined the entire Star Wars mythology in terms of the movies. And it's simply because George Lucas did not understand the universe he created. So that being said, in light of the prequels, looking at the prequels and then looking at the original Star Wars trilogy, you have a problem with continuity, of dealing with the full scope of the entire story as it's been presented to you in film. Anybody can ignore the extended universe and not miss a beat at all. So, just counting on the films, the entire Star Wars universe has been annihilated. Like, it's been so distorted and so disgraced from what it originally was that to redeem it is going to take a hell of a lot of work on Disney's part. But I'm optimistic that they're up to task. I'm pretty sure that we would all like to forget the prequels happened, but be that as it may, we can't just say those didn't happen. No, because then we'd have to erase the entire trilogy, and we're not going to do that. So, with the prospect of an episode 7, and it's been announced that this is going to be an original story. Now, understand something. In the extended Star Wars universe, there actually are other stories involving Han Solo's son, who later becomes a Sith Lord, and things of that nature. So, we have an extended universe past the original trilogy that's already been established in the expanded universe. So, the prospect of an episode 7 is almost like a reboot, although it's not, because it will be taking over with another character who may or may not be a Jedi, who may or may not be a Sith Lord, who, you know, a lot of things have changed since Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and all that in the films. And this is where we get into a lot of confusion, because like I said, the expanded universe already has a story continuing that. So for a new movie to come out that is going to be an original story raises a lot of questions. Although, as big as the Star Wars universe is, it can and will be able to lend itself to a hell of a lot more stories being told with many different characters in many different ways. So that's my optimism about it. My pessimism about it stems from the fact that we really don't need another Star Wars. The idea here is the fact that the Star Wars mythology has been so changed that to fuddle with it anymore will cause the original 3 movies to become obsolete. And I love the original 3 movies. They were kind of my introduction to like hardcore like sci-fi fantasy. And I imagine that was the same for everybody. So to muddle with it is almost to... It's almost to add more where there didn't really need to be more. Like, you could have just stopped it right there. But I understand studios want money and, you know, Star Wars is a marketable property. I mean, let's face it, we got games, toys, plushies, audiobooks, actual books, which I own, and things of that nature. So, it's getting to the point now where we don't need any more. There really doesn't need to be more. You can stop. So, you know, that's my pessimism comes from. It just comes from the fact that the universe is solid. It's done. It's complete. In the films, outside of the films, in other, you know, areas, and it doesn't need to go any further. A lot of people have been throwing out that we could see, you know, an Emperor Palpatine origin movie, or a Yoda origin movie, or a movie about Boba Fett, all of which are great. But at the same time, do we really need that? Like, think about it for a second. Do we need that? Does that need to happen? And no, it doesn't need to happen. But even if it does happen, because I remember when the new trilogy came out, you know, episode 1, you know, 2 and 3. I remember when those were being advertised and it was like, holy crap, they're making a new Star Wars movie. You know, wow, this is going to be insane, you know. No one's ever, you know, wow. And then we all kind of regret being as excited as we were when we saw the finished product. So, if they're going to make a Star Wars movie, it needs to be in the hands of someone who understands the mythology, understands the universe, understands the trilogy, because clearly George Lucas did not. And if you want to challenge me on that, and I know a lot of people won't, but if you want to challenge me on that, then here's what I'm basing my entire argument on, that George Lucas does not understand Star Wars. Here it is, and I'm going to lay it out in this video. In episode 3, Obi-Wan says that only a Sith Lord thinks in absolutes. The problem is the entire basis of being a Jedi and the Force is based on an absolute. There's a light side and there's a dark side. It doesn't get more absolute than that. So for him to say that only a Sith Lord thinks in absolutes pretty much makes the entire philosophy of being a Jedi, what it means to be a Jedi, collapse like a flan in a cupboard. So right then and there, I'm like, George Lucas does not understand Star Wars based on that little bit of dialogue, because the implications of that is insane. And it just totally makes the Jedis look like stoner hippies who really didn't know what they were talking about. Which is a common joke, but I mean, now, if you say that, only a Sith Lord thinks in absolutes, even though my entire philosophy on life is based on an absolute, you're an idiot. So yeah. Also, another thing that I'm optimistic about is the fact that George Lucas is removed from Star Wars now. But again, the damage is done. You know, there's no way we can undo that unless we go back and remake episodes 1, 2, and 3. But I don't think Disney's gonna do that, so that's out of the question. So, what do I think about an episode 7? I'm cautiously optimistic about it. If the trailer looks good, I will see it. Disney handled Marvel very well with the Avengers. So I'm at a moment now where I don't know what to think. And I know a lot of people out there have a lot of positive views about it, but again, the damage has already been done to the universe. We don't really need any more stories. The expanded universe pretty much handles all of that. And it's just, we don't need it. We don't need it. We don't. And I'm not prepared for another Star Wars movie. I don't want another Star Wars movie. But we're gonna get one, so if the trailer looks good, I will see it. I do like that it's a Star Wars movie. I do like Star Wars, the whole thing. I love that, but again, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'll have to see the cast. I'll have to see what's going on with it. What story are they trying to tell? What they're going to do with it. And until then, I'm just not going to formulate an opinion other than utter confusion, because this did not need to happen. This doesn't need to happen. And there really isn't any more I can say about it. There are a lot of good points. There are a lot of good things that can happen. There are a lot of bad things that can happen. But we have to keep in mind the damage has already been done. And there's no way we can undo that. So whatever they give us, we're just going to have to kind of grin and bear it. And just, I mean, after the prequels, we can pretty much write off anything like, well, whatever. We don't need that. It's all apocryphal anyway, so, you know, if it was just the original trilogy, I would be fine with that. And I can imagine that in the future, when I do have children and whatnot, we're going to sit down and watch the original trilogy and completely ignore episodes 1, 2, 3, and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 5 million. We're just going to completely ignore that, because the original trilogy is the definitive Star Wars universe, and everything else is apocryphal, in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on the Star Wars thing. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Posted in the description box below is a link to Paul Tassi's article on Unreality Magazine about this. It's a very interesting, a very good read. And he makes a lot of good points, and I just felt like I needed to share that with you guys. So yeah, definitely check that out. And if you haven't, check out my storyline. Links are in the description box. It's always there. You can go to the blog, click on Season 3 storyline. It's there. The trailer is out. Check that out. And yeah, that'll do it for me. Peace.